just the normal way that you change speed, but there's the documentation. I was just kind of going through the documentation. You'll see if you're looking at the screen that there's an option for path speed, and you can change the path speed. I'll probably have to do some checks to say what point is it at, and how far is it along the path, and then change the speed at that point. But I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work, because each path chosen is going to be different, and it's also random. So I'm going to have a way to know which path I'm working with. So I'll probably have to do a little bit of what we call in programming as reflection of some sort. So, you know, that fun stuff. Yes and no. Yes for a particular piece of shrapnel. No for each piece of shrapnel will move between 6, 7, or 8. It'll do 6, 7, or 8 when it starts. So this code right here that you will see on screen in just a minute, it chooses randomly 6, 7, or 8 when it gets created, and sets that. This path speed variable gets set right here when it starts along the path. So it will choose a random 6, 7, or 8. No, you're fine. Okay. Okay, sure. I think it might look a little hokey if they're all 8, but let's try it. Choose 8. Choose is supposed to choose something randomly, and if you only give it one, obviously it'll choose it every time. I could just set it to 8, but for now I'll leave the choose there in case we change it back. Oh yeah, here we go, here we go. Hold on 1 second. Oh man, this is going to be good. Trying to get full screen mode going. But I'll do that in a minute. Get over to Skype. Alright. The sound is not too loud. Oh, okay, good. Alright, here we go. Coming up on these guys. Come on, come on, come on. Here they are, right here. Okay, cool. I see what you're saying at the moment. You like the way that looks? Okay. Well, the thinking was if it speeds up and slows down, it'll feel real. Like I know some of the paths are really high. So here's the thing: is when I tested this initially, I thought, man, it would be really nice if I had some really close explosions to like the center of whatever aircraft I'm working with. And when I tested that, all of the explosions were generating like straight down or like almost straight down and to the side or straight out to the side. But then I thought, you know, one thing that might make this just look a little bit more authentic is if I have some really tight shrapnel flying near the aircraft, right? So if I remove those so that the so that the paths are not going almost straight up and down, then it'll look a little bit funny. But I mean, I could always just make the height of these a little bit lower. The ones that I made real tight here are these right here, and I didn't make the. I mean, the height of them is not horrible. See if I. Right. So what would they do though? See, I thought about that because in GameMaker with a path, when you set an object on a path, you can do a couple things with it when it reaches the end of its path. And you can either destroy that object or you can let the object continue on the path that it's basically already on, the direction that it's going and the speed that it's going. Or you can reverse the object, or you can start the object over on its path. So really the two that would make the most sense, one of them is already occurring, which is the object just continues once it hits the end of its path in the direction and speed that it's already going. The other option is to just destroy the object. We could do that. Okay, okay. So you do like that, okay. Okay, okay, cool. Okay. Yeah, I can stream. Yep. Okay, let's take a look. Right, right. Just waiting for him to blow something up here so I can see it. Okay. Oh, that's interesting how they do that. Looks. Oh, okay. Man, well, I feel like they. It's hard to tell because there's so much lag on their game because it's an older game. I mean, this is what happened. But it's hard to tell how much, like, what's happening when the shrapnel is actually happening. If what's happening is caused due to lag, or what's happening is caused, because it slows down. It slows down when it. Okay. Okay. Oh, oh, oh! I see what you're. I see what you're saying. Okay, okay. Like it. Okay, so what I'll do then is keep them all tight. Let's just do that. Keep it tight, bruh. Okay, that's too tight. Hold on, I'll delete it. I'll delete some of these points. Oh, I want to keep that one. Okay, got that. Man, I don't know what was going on. Did you fix something or did I fix something? Okay. Man, that was annoying. I don't know what the problem was, man, seriously. Okay, I'm fine with that one. I'm fine with that one. This one's too big. Let's keep this tight and delete these 2 points. Okay. Yeah. Okay, here we go. I've almost got it here. I'm going to have to hop off here in a little bit. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that, but let me, let's test it real quick while you're here still. A little bit, yeah. So I have talked a little bit about our process and about the technologies we use, and that I'll try to demonstrate the technologies as we're using them. But why don't you go ahead, like, since you're thinking about it, why don't you go ahead and talk through just kind of how you understand what our process is? Yeah, I think so. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, Chris. So Chris basically gave you a quick rundown of kind of our process. Um, and there's a little bit more to it on my end. That's a lot of what he sees on his end in terms of Chris has several arcade cabinets at his house, and so as soon as I'm done building it and saving it and exporting it correctly, then I upload it to Drive as soon as I can. And as the game has gotten a lot bigger, it's taken a lot more time to export, so I might be waiting. I don't know. A lot more time is not actually a lot, but it's more compared to what it used to be. Now I might wait 3 or 4 minutes for a build to complete versus early on it was like it would almost do it instantly. But that I think is because of all the new assets that we've added to the game, the size of the images, the size of specifically some of the controller files, and the size of some of the sound files. I just started playing one of the sounds that Chris created. It's the entire sound for level 1. Chris is also our main sound engineer, so he puts all the sounds together. I mentioned this earlier, he collects them and has also, like, literally note for note generated them in his recording studio. So it's pretty amazing. Yeah. Yeah, that's good because you know, like Chris mentioned, and I've mentioned a couple times, you know, we're indie devs and we're always trying to think of ways that we can save money, and some of that is by generating a little bit of hype and through a little bit of marketing and also networking and connections, seeing if people will be willing to do something, but also, you know, obviously we don't want to just constantly be asking people to give us things for free, so we definitely reimburse people as they help us. Additionally, I'm going to go ahead now and talk through the process of what I have to do to get something over to Google Drive so that Chris can then take it and put it on his arcade box at home. So basically the main thing that I have to do is create an executable. Right now, of course, the executable plays off of a Windows machine. Our end goal with kind of what we're going for and trying to set up is that we're trying to make it possible for other indie devs to be able to create their own arcade games, and we're trying to basically create a JAMA compatible PCB that allows that is low cost, most likely runs off of a Linux operating system, but doesn't lose the authenticity of the feel for the arcade machine. And there's a lot of things that go into that, a lot of pieces of hardware besides just the operating system that make that possible. So right now, in order to get it to Chris plays the game through an emulator on a computer that he has, so I have to export it to an executable and let him play that through his emulator on his machine. Now, when we did a couple of our demo, our location tests, we did not play it through an emulator. We just played it straight off of Windows in the executable format. But and I guess actually that's how Chris does it. He plays it right off of his Windows operating system on his arcade machine. The emulator is for multiple other games that he has on his arcade machine. So when I go to export it, I've got a couple of configurations set up under macros for Game Maker. Macros are kind of they're basically a constant. If you know what a constant is in programming, it's basically something that should not change at all during the course of the game. And then as you're writing as you're writing code in your scripts, you can basically check for that constant and see what the value of that constant is. So in the game, there are multiple places where I'm checking to see if the platform is keyboard or the platform is arcade. Right now, I'm just going to go ahead and change this to arcade. If the platform is arcade, then definitely the controls change for up, down, left, right, and all three of the fire buttons, and then of course the start button and the insert coin button. And same for if I change it to keyboard, the keys obviously are mapped to different things for the keyboard. So I'm just going to go ahead and set this to arcade. I want to save it, and then when I'm ready to export, I go to Save As Type, and I go to Single Runtime Executable, and then I save the name of a particular version of it, so Skycurser, and I usually do it by date, 2015 0319, and I'm going to call this version 1 in case there was a version that I had to do later today for some reason, make a small update to something, and then recreate and send this this data. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. In the near future, so what's going to happen is this is going to go through the compile process that GameMaker has when creating an executable. Specifically, a single runtime executable means that you basically double click it and it opens the game up right there. And I've got to check something as soon as that's done, Chris, to make sure that runs in full screen mode as opposed to windowed mode, because that would not be correct if it's not running in full screen mode. So I'll check that in a minute when this is complete. But in the near future, what's going to happen is instead of taking the executable straight from my desktop over to Google Drive and then clicking upload on Google Drive and then waiting, for it to finish uploading, I'll probably set up a Git, basically a Git repo in Google Drive. We will, of course, still have our repo with Bitbucket, which is the company that we have our Git repo with right now, but also set up a repo just for our executables. We basically have a repo right now, but it's not connected to Git. If it was connected to Git, I could make some changes, save it. It would, of course, have to compile on my end, but the second that it compiled, I could send it right over to Google Plus with Git, G-I-T, and which is just if you're not familiar with Git, it's just a version control piece of software. But that would most likely send the file a lot quicker. And even if it didn't send it quicker, it would save me several steps in having to upload and go from there. But looks like it's almost finished here. Yeah, that's why, this is honestly, this is probably the most painstaking part of compiling a game, of like all the code that I put into the game is the compile part, because once it gets to a certain level, I mean, imagine what this is going to be like when we have 5 stages. I think, yeah, I actually think most of it has to do with the size of the sound files. I usually, yeah, right. I usually indicate on the file name whether this is arcade or keyboard, so I just added that in. Let me check this, see if it goes to windowed mode or full screen mode. Okay, this is not how we want it, so I'm going to actually change the setting real quick. Global game settings. It's under Windows, and it's under graphics. Start in full screen mode. I'm going to try that. Let's try that. Okay. Yeah, and I've also, that generally matches, Chris, with the Trello page that we have set up for Skycurser development. Right now, I've got all these things from the backlog assigned to me. I'll probably actually move this. I'll remove some of these because generally you like to think of things in terms of a sprint, and sprints can last any amount of time. They could last a week, a month, a quarter, a year. They could last, but generally you'd like to keep sprints smaller and only assign what items are in the backlog to a specific people at a specific point in time. So as we add more team members, I will make sure that these are distinguished by who they're assigned to and then what's in progress. But okay, so back to this. This should compile correctly now. I just changed the setting. I'm not really going to test it before I save it again. I'll let it save and then run because I'm pretty sure it'll just go to full screen mode pretty quickly. This version right here. Oh, yes. That's awesome. That's great. All right. So the good news about today's stream, I keep checking just to make sure. The good news about today's stream is that I'm definitely recording it with the OBS, and I think I changed, which is the streaming software, and I think I changed the setting correctly in Twitch so that it automatically archives any stream, and then also should push that stream over to YouTube at the same time if all of our settings are correct. But either way, since I'm recording it, I definitely know that I'll have control of the final version and can push it to YouTube as necessary. No, no. As soon as it's done, and if there's anything that I have to do, I'll make sure that it happens. But I want to get them over to YouTube as fast as possible. I don't see any reason to just hold it on Twitch, because I think Twitch only holds video archives for a very limited amount of time, if I understand it. So that's the whole reason. They used to hold them indefinitely, but then they recently opened it up so that you could just export videos right over to YouTube, because they no longer wanted to, control that for. They no longer wanted to let people have infinite number of videos for an infinite amount of time, because that's just tons of storage. I'm sure that's the main reason why, which is completely understandable. All right, I think that just completed, and let's test it real quick. Should be on the desktop. I saved it as the exact same file name. Game Maker gave it its own file name. Let me just change that. Let's try this real quick. Boom. Now, I know for sure you won't be able to see that because, again, it wasn't capturing properly like I wanted it to, but I know for sure that's working correctly based on what I can see. I'll work on the capturing. I'll work on the capturing of it as soon as I'm done here. So, as soon as I'm done streaming tonight and got everything broken down. But last thing I want to do, I always go ahead and export at the same time. I go ahead and export the game in keyboard mode. The platform right now is keyboard, and platform is a very loosely used term. You could export it to PlayStation or I don't know, Steam or Linux or Mac or anything like that. I'm using it very loosely and controlling it this way. I know that Game Maker also has these configurations that you can create and manage, and they are specific configurations for whatever platform you're trying to export to. I don't quite manage it like that yet because it's not to that point where I have to manage it like that at the moment. Instead, I just make these small changes and the game is ready to be saved in Windows or in Windows format or arcade format. I should say keyboard format or arcade format. So let's just save this as keyboard version 1. Yeah. Yeah. So there are two reasons to that, like Chris is mentioning. Two reasons. One reason, of course, is to help keep our costs low so that if we're creating more arcade cabinets on our own dime, the cost will be low. If we're on that same note, if we're creating arcade cabinets for somebody who wants to purchase an arcade cabinet, the cost will be low. We don't have to pay for a Windows license every single time we create a cabinet. On the other hand, this also keeps the cost of the board low, so that if we are able to create something like this, and other indie devs want to create a game and put it on this board and install it in a cabinet, they can do it at a very low cost as well. And so it's not only benefiting us, it's also benefiting other indie devs as we work on the hardware and get the technology right and playing well together between the software and the hardware and the middleware. Then it, all while not detracting from the authentic arcade experience, like then it will be a win-win for everyone. Okay, so this is literally almost finished with keyboard. Again, the reason why I'm showing this process is just so you can kind of see, how we do things. Again, we're trying to keep our costs low. As soon as these are finished, I'm going to go over to Google Drive, drop them in a folder on Google Drive. Then Chris will be able to download the executable and drop it on his arcade machine, which has a Windows operating system computer attached to it. Yeah. Yeah, they get saved. Yep. We didn't really test them, but they're saved. So right now the paths are going to be. Um, we definitely won't break anything with what we changed. All we did is literally change the, um, you know, exactly what those paths do instead of. Here are all the paths again, so you can take a look. And so they're all really tight. You'll see that in a second. I know that it's lagging, but you'll see that in a second. And then I'm going to go over to Google Drive and do a file upload. Got to make sure I'm in the right folder first. New file upload. Skycurser version 2 for the arcade, version 1 for the keyboard, today's date. Open. Let Google Drive finish uploading. And if you're watching this and just kind of like waiting for time to pass as I'm completing these tests, I normally won't do this on stream every time, especially when I don't have a change that I'm ready to push out. I may have to do a couple of streams or work on some items on my own initially, maybe off stream, but a lot of times I probably won't just be ready to upload a full version executable, so we won't be sitting through this process waiting every time as I'm streaming. Arcade's almost halfway up. Oh yeah, sure, let's go ahead and do that real quick. Yeah, I'm getting really close to having to jump off here, so I'll probably jump off as soon as Google Drive is done. Oh, you're not going to be able to see what I'm seeing, I'm realizing, but I'll check this. Oh yeah, that looked amazing. Yeah, I agree. There are too many pieces of shrapnel flying with the. I'm trying to think of a different way to do that. Maybe not with every single explosion on the carriers. I may need to do it just slightly different on the carriers because it looks kind of funny on the carriers. With I think the tightness of the explosion looks a lot better than it did. Yeah, the carrier it just looks awkward whenever it occurs on the carrier. Yeah. Okay. Sure. Awesome, man. Yeah. Right. Absolutely. Yep. Hey, Rain Juke, I just wanted to say that out loud in chat. Chris typed, "Hey, dude." I typed, "Hey, Rain Juke." So we're both talking to you. Both signed in as Skycurser Dev. So sorry about that. But yeah, I'm hopping off the stream right now, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. We are going to, of course, I mentioned in here, we're going to be saving each one of these and uploading them to YouTube so you can follow from there. But we've got some really good things planned with Skycurser. This is literally our first recorded stream daily, and our goal is to stream as often as possible. You'll see the stream schedule in the channel down below. But yeah, we'll be on here frequently. Hopefully you can catch up with us then, and don't forget to follow us on Twitch, of course, and then Twitter is a good place to follow us because you'll be always able to see when we're hopping on stream. And let's see, Tumblr is the other good place to go. That link is below our video here. You can below our stream here, you can see the Tumblr link. But basically, we call that our development blog. That's where we show a lot of kind of what we're working on. It's not necessarily specifically development as I'm doing it here, but it encompasses a lot of the progress and development of Skycurser. So Chris joined and tuned in with us today. Chris, thanks for joining us, and hopefully we can get Phil in here in the near future as well, and just kind of talk through more. Yeah, I know. This is really good. This is really helpful. So, all right, everybody. Thanks a lot. Stay tuned. We'll catch you next time. We'll talk to you later. All right. Bye.